So, we tried to get all the nostalgia out of our systems last week, but did it work? Let's find out.
Fash! Fash, fash, fash! The Stampede!
All right, so back to talk some Trigun Stampede again with my friends, just like for the first episode. And once again, we're just starting from the right, going to the left. Chris, anything changed since last week?
No.
All
None.
right.
Nothing.
And how about you, Matthew? Things all still good there in your part of town?
Konnichiwa, Mina. Also, hi, everybody. Everything's great here.
Okay, so the first thing I want to go ahead and start off with is we got an OP this week. So what'd you guys think? I'm going to just go ahead and kind of start to the right here with Chris again. Chris, what did you think about the OP we got this week? The Trigun Stampede Sands of the Desert CGI OP.
I mean, it was okay. I mean, I like the older one better. The original. But hey, I feel like this is going to be a constant theme throughout these weeks that we're dealing with this. That I'm going to say I like the old one better, but yeah, no, it was okay.
I found it kind of like mesmerizing or something. I like watching the sand and the gun go down, and then I thought it was pretty good music too. I was really settled in with the music. So, Matthew, what's your take on the OP?
I love it. I really think it's good mood setter and everything. And the way I like how they segued into it in this episode too. But it's got a very solemn tone, which I think is very fitting for Vash.
Yeah, I think it's got I don't know, it's like it's filled with melancholy emotion. When you say solemn, I mean I'm feeling so much emotion when I'm hearing it and hearing the music. You said you liked the way they segued to it this week. Remind us exactly how they did that.
Oh, Vash was listening to the radio, and the guy on the radio just said, "And now let's play a tune."
Now, speaking of music, because we got this nice new Trigun Stampede OP music that we can listen to, but my question is now, do you have any kind of music you've been working on, Matthew?
Just today, in honor of this excursion into the world of Trigun, I had a new song parody idea.
Can you tell us about it, or is it top secret?
Well, I'm willing to let it go if you're sure you want to hear me try and sing it.
Go ahead, just give us a little tease. We don't need the whole song till it's finished, but give us a little tease.
Okay, here we go. I got Trigun. It's an anime. Vash is by my side to stampede clouds away. Okay. I guess you say, what show makes me feel this way? Trigun. Trigun.
Calm down before we get a copyright claim now. I know the inspiration for the song. Lyrics are original, but the music's familiar.
Wait, I mean, that wasn't completely original? I thought everything was original about that. I don't know.
It's got a nice tune. I'll tell you, you can dance to it.
I can't compose, that's for sure.
So before we get into talking about anything else on the specifics of the episode, because there's a whole lot that really caught my attention, but I got to know, Matthew, did you cry before the OP this week?
No.
Are you sure? Because last week you were crying before, like it said Kodansha, and then you were crying or whatever it says before the show. So when because this one did have a cold opening once again with Rim and Knives and Vash in the spaceship. So I thought maybe
pun not intended, because Vash was in the cold sleep area.
Yeah, the cold opening, cold sleep. I don't know. Any tears coming to your eyes, Chris?
No, I don't know.
Do you think you'll cry all season, Chris?
No, I don't think I'll cry once. But like, hey, it's it's each their own. Hey, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with being emotional.
What if you're watching the Trigun Stampede anime and you drop a really heavy can of vegetables on your toe?
Well, I was going to say, if I stub my toe, then yes, I'll probably tear up. I've got very sensitive toes. They will probably be sore if I do that. So yeah.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and get the review started early and just say that this episode really, really won me over. And it sounds facetious when I'm saying it, but this might be my favorite anime so far this year. I mean, we're only 17 days into it, but you know what I mean? Like I'm really the first episode was fine, but this one really, something about this one really won me over. How
Well,
did you
this
feel,
one
Chris?
is.
Or go ahead, Matthew.
This one is basically a rework of episode 5 from the original anime, or the
Yeah.
first story, or the beginning of the original manga.
So, what do you think, Chris? Episode 2 versus 1. Did you have did you feel much difference, much more positivity or negativity going from episode 1 to 2?
You know what? I feel like this one felt more like the original anime. I felt like it felt like Trigun. Um,
Yeah, like I
I'm kind
said.
of getting used. Yeah, I'm kind of getting used to the CGI. He's not spindly enough for me. Like I wish he was more spindly, like like a spider. Like that's what I wish he looked like. But
Yes.
it does feel a lot more now after that episode, like Trigun,
Yes.
the original. So yeah, like I'm enjoying it. I'm getting past the CGI, which it's not bad CGI in any means. So it's just yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the episode. I'm definitely feeling more enthused about it. Will it ever stack up to the original? Probably not. But hey, we'll wait till we get to the end. Maybe
I,
the end is really, really good. Knock it out of the park.
I think I'm going to talk about somebody or something that I do believe stacks up positively with the original. And that's going to be that it was nice to have some interesting villains and some familiar villains with the Nebraskas. So, guys, can we talk about the Nebraskas a little bit?
Please do.
So, Matthew, I've been letting Chris go first. I'm going to switch gears here. Did you
Oh.
have like strong feelings at all about the Nebraskas going into this? You mentioned episode 5 of the old anime, the manga. Were you kind of happy to see something familiar like the Nebraskas popping up here?
I was, and I was even kind of glad that they dropped some of the supreme silliness of the originals and didn't have Ghost of Nebraska be a giant.
Yeah, I gotta say I enjoy the Nebraskas more in this incarnation than in the previous one. So I don't know, is that blasphemy to you, Chris?
No, I think the sizing was a little, but I mean, I think that's a product of its time too,
Yeah.
right? I mean, like things were proportionality was not a strong point in like the 90s, early 2000s. That was not a that was not a strong point of the animation style of that time. So
Yeah,
yeah, no, like no, I think I liked it. I in seeing those characters and being those familiar characters, it was nice. And I think they pulled it off pretty well.
yeah.
And
Plus,
I
originally with the original show, Night was a big Marvel fan, so he was probably thinking of Giant Man or something when he designed
Oh,
that
you know
character.
what? That's pretty possible. What do you make of the dad? I don't know, is it just Papa Nebraska? I know
Just
Gosef's
Professor.
name. Okay. Professor Nebraska. What a name, man. Talk about like it's still evoking the cowboy era in the old west with a name like the Nebraskas. But I got to tell you, this episode, I said the last one felt more space western, more Tatooine. This one really feels more Mad Max, especially with the vehicle that the Nebraskas commandeer that they're taking out there. Chris, were you getting a Mad Max vibe off of this one?
Yeah, there was definitely a Mad Max vibe. I mean, that like that chase, I did love the fact he's like, I don't know sure what kind of dinosaur he's riding, but he's riding away. He's like, I'm fleeing town on a dinosaur, getting traced by like basically a tank, like an
He's
armored
riding a
vehicle.
giant chicken with purple feathers or blue feathers. I like it because I went back and was rewatching, the old one. I was like, they were riding birds in the old one too, weren't they? But
Yeah,
those things had hair. They were more like tauntauns.
yeah. They were in universe. They're called Thomases for some reason.
So very much like a
And I thought
tauntaun with the top.
there's a real big Nausicaa vibe with the masks they had on them in this episode.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, that's pretty cool, man. But yeah, I like the chicken. I also like the joke about I'm going to call it a chicken, by the way, because I like the idea of a thunder chicken running across the desert with an alien cowboy on its back and a trench coat duster. But
Chocobos.
that's all the Mad Max feel. You'd ride chickens in the world of Mad Max once you ran out of gas, right?
Right. That's funny. When I was watching it I was watching it again with a friend today, and he also mentioned wondering where Mad Max was.
Now, I do have to say, they gave us a more sympathetic take on Gosef this time around. Like, not only was he not bigger, but I also almost felt a little bit of pity for him. Like, he's being used by his father. He's being turned into this violent creature when maybe he kind of has more of a gentle soul. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. But I don't know. Did you have any takes on this version of Gosif, Matt?
Overall, I like it better than just the one note villain there to put people in danger and show off Vash's skills, because I like it when your enemy becomes your friend.
Oh
And
yeah,
I think
and
they
I
were
think.
on their way to perhaps doing that at the end of this episode.
What's your take on Gosif, Chris, this time around?
No, I would agree. Yeah, like I think um I like the way like I like the fact that he was heroic, like the heroic he was heroic. He saved the I can never remember what they call it, but that the big like basically the water source
The
system,
plant.
right?
The plant.
The plant. Yes, thank you.
It was an
Yeah,
episode.
yeah. So like I like that. And then, then they're all celebrating. I like that part. They're in the saloon, they're all celebrating. And then, you get the ending where you're like, I like that little bit. Like you turn them sympathetic, you turn them like they're all good. Everybody's okay with it. And then tragedy, right? Like that's a
Yeah.
nice like, twist, right? So I
Yeah.
like that.
We'll make friends and then we'll blow somebody up.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Exactly.
so while we're talking about Gosif, I just want to ask another question, and that is physically, just physically speaking, how strong is Vash? Because he pulls up Gosif, but he needs help to do it. So, like, how strong is Vash physically? I always pictured him as a little bit super strong, not like human strong.
I don't know. I don't think he's like superhero strong, but he was built on the seed ship. Like he was birthed on the seed ship. So I'm sure there's some genetic mutation of some sort, that's going on to give them some extra because like as we see, I mean, he basically, we don't know how he got his training. If he wanted to like basically murder entire cities, he could with no issue. Like he's that good with his marksmanship. You can't hit him. Like he's gonna dodge every single possible thing. So he's got some. You would assume he's got some superhuman abilities. So there's probably some extra strength in there, but I mean, I don't know if it's just something that they only talk about in the manga or they don't even talk about it at all. But I feel like there's some kind of genetic manipulation going on in his birthing that gives him some abilities that everybody else in that universe doesn't have really, right?
So
Other
Matthew,
than probably knives.
Matthew, what did you kind of picture in the past as Vash's strength level?
Fairly average for a human.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
no
like if
super
we're
strength or anything. I think I think probably in their attempts to communicate with
okay, don't
and
spoil too much for too many people now, Matthew.
oh, that's you're right. I should be wary of that. Although that's I'm trying to defend what I
People know we're a
okay.
spoiler heavy show, but just don't go back and re-listen to it if you don't know what he meant.
Yeah, now all the people are like fleeing, going, I can't believe it's all ruined for me. They're gone.
Yeah,
They're
people
never
don't know.
coming back.
People just
Now I've
don't know
forgotten
the
what I was
secret
going to
there.
say.
Oh, sorry. Well, I'm just going to go ahead and come up with my next question for you guys here.
Oh, I remember now.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Forgive me. I was going to say that I think Vash's skills mostly just came from his long life.
I can see that. I just always pictured not being your average guy, you wouldn't have your average strength. Like if he was a D&D character, I definitely wouldn't expect his strength to be 9. So I'll just leave it
Right.
at that.
He actually, this is a very with his ability not to be hit. And I know that Matthew, you like this one, but he reminds me of Irma from Irma because he can't get hit. Like you could like literally like he'll dodge everything. And Irma from I can't believe it. I forgot the name of the anime, but
School?
yes, thank you, dear goodness. Like it should have been simple. They're always demons or schools. It should have been easy. But like with the ability to never get hit. It's like as if he's got that ability. Now, in that anime, as we know, as anybody who's watched it knows, it's just because he had such a terrible upbringing, he was almost always getting murdered, so he found a way to avoid being hit and crushed or ran over. So maybe that's exactly what happened to Vash. I don't know.
Well, I'm going to go another direction. Are you guys familiar with Woozy Winks from Plastic Man fame?
No.
So Woozy Winks was like this sidekick with Plastic Man who was like cursed, with good luck. Like it was a weird kind of good luck. Like he would be walking down the road and he would trip over a tree vine and fall just as like a missile would fly right past his head. So like he would trip and fall. So he looked
Uh-huh.
clumsy, but he would always do that in a way that he ended up better off than he was before. And it
Ah,
almost kind of has that look to it, like the fluidity, the smoothness with Vash in some of these action scenes, the fluid way that he moves. It's like he almost accidentally avoids the bullets. Like he falls down and the way he chooses to get up makes him avoid not just the bullets, but the fists that are
yeah.
flying from Joseph and all that sort of thing.
I
And I love the beautiful way that you can't hit Vash. And I saw one person who did a review of the show call Vash, and this is a quote from someone else, a master of the artful dodge. And I love that phrase. I think that describes
yes.
perfectly. And we got two really good action scenes that showed off Vash's ability to win a fight without being violent, which is hard to do, and they show us that
Yeah.
twice in this episode. And I think that is why this one won me over so much. I also love it when Vash is cornered and he decides to kick butt. Like when he goes from the goofy, kind of clumsy, lovable oaf to suddenly, okay, now it's time to do something. Because it was such a great flex when Vash shot that bullet out of the air.
Yes.
But that was the one thing that I really loved about the original, because you could always tell when Vash got serious in the original, right? Like
Yes.
the way he looked, his whole face turned, right? He would all of a sudden he would go from being like just the funny, happy-go-lucky to I'm completely serious, and you knew it was on. Like that was you knew it was on when he got his face changed, right? So I mean, he looked the same here, but I mean that was that's the one thing I wish they kind of replicated, that he got that like ridiculous, like his like super serious, like everything. Basically, it almost looked like a different person when he gets serious. I wish they would have kind of kept that, just because it's like that great signaling, like, okay, now it's on. So now you're in for something really special, right? When he got serious.
I think we may pick up on some visual cues like that. I don't know. What's your thoughts on when Vash finally gets to the point where he has to kick butt, Matthew?
Well, it's always, gosh, I love watching it, and it's kind of sad because it makes me think of how he's does his best not to hurt anybody. It was like Nebraska, the professor mocks him for not drawing his gun, and I was sitting there watching like, hey, someone could get hurt if Vash does that.
Yes. This show is doing a great job of establishing the character Vash as someone who wants to help people and not hurt them. And I'm glad they're going early on to make it abundantly clear, because that is who the character is. If suddenly he turned around, he's throwing lead pipes through people's necks like Wonder Woman 2011, it's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they are doing a good job of showing how deadly he could be, right?
Yes.
Like they show a jaw, like, because like he could be incredibly deadly if he wanted to be, right? It's kind of like, it's almost in the same way that, it's not a direct correlation, but like with Superman, like if he wanted to rule the world, Superman could rule the world without even blinking. He basically could just decimate everything he wanted. But his struggle is, how does he help people and stop the bad guys without murdering everything, right? Like that's the big thing about Superman. And kind of in this one, it's like Vash is trying to figure out, how do I stop the bad guys without injuring them or murder or killing them, right? Like,
yeah.
so
or
that's
even
kind of,
or even scaring other people.
yeah. It's so that's like kind of, it's kind of similar in that way, that he's always trying to figure out, how can I, like, that's why he like it seems like he runs away, right? He runs away because if he stays, there could be trouble and there could be collateral damage, right? So it's kind of that same way of, I'm trying to find a way to do this without basically beating everyone down. It's that same kind of thing.
Everything he does is to protect others.
Is the show building up Millions Knives too big too quickly? Because personally, I'm worried that every episode could just kind of turn into a sibling struggle, or the struggle between Vash and Knives. And there's a whole lot of good stories to tell with Vash before we get to that point in the story. Matthew, what are your thoughts?
I'm comparing the original anime with the manga because in the manga they reunite rather quickly. But so far this series seems to be shaping up to kind of follow more the manga. If Knives, as we learned in the previous episode, if Knives is coming to this place to retrieve Vash, that's just like in the manga. It was at the same place, the same town.
Okay, I didn't realize that. So I wouldn't mind that if they're going to give us a story that's a little closer to the manga. I'm okay with that. Chris, what are your thoughts? Too
So,
much Millions Knives, or are you cool with it?
no, like I mean, I guess in some ways, like I like the big bad to be set up from the start because, like, I feel like you get a lot of this where they like to throw red herrings if they don't do that, like in all kinds of media, right? They throw these red herrings that, oh, it could be this guy, oh no, it's this guy, oh it's this, oh it's that, and in the end it's somebody else who was barely mentioned for like half of the series, right? Like I like the idea of like this is the big bad. At some point they're going to meet and there's going to be there's going to be hopefully a satisfying conclusion, like the big bad's going to get the beatdown that we all want, right? Like, so I think setting that person up, and just alluding to them, right? Like they're not like, it's not like Knives is in half the show. Like they kind of there's an allusion to it. Oh, my brother here, and then you see Knives at the end of the first episode. You see little glimpses, so he's the big bad. He's the
Yeah.
big bad, and at some point that's the fight, right? Like that's the battle is Vash and Knives. So setting that up from the start is I'm okay with. Like I hate when they give you something and pull the rug out from you and then they keep doing it over and over. And so by the time you get to the end, you're like, I don't even care. Just just end this. Like get it over with. I'm done. Like I don't even care. Just let the good guy win. I don't care who he beats and just say he won the end and out and that's it. Because at certain points I remember it's just like I know we talked about this in Chubby Wizard, but Justice League did this like a year and a half ago, and all they did like every other week was like the Justice League win, and then the next one was like, nope, they didn't win. Haha, it's even worse. And you're like, oh my god, it was like 6 months of that, and I was like, I don't even care. Just kill them all. I kill the Justice League. I don't care. Let the bad win. Destroy the entire universe. I don't care anymore. Like I didn't care. And so like I hate that. And so like setting up the big bad this way right from the start, I'm totally for.
Now, this is the last question I have about this episode. The last point I really want to talk about. What's up with the virus robots? Matthew, tell us a little bit. What's up with the virus robots?
Virus robot?
Yeah, the little droids that took out Ghostif.
Oh, the exploding cube thingies?
Yeah,
I have no idea.
They look like not just viruses, like they literally look like viruses.
Oh,
And I don't know if
do
it's
they?
influenced by viruses being in the news lately, but they specifically look to me like retroviruses, like HIV or HTLV or some bacteriophage viruses kind of look like that. But they look like the retrovirus that puts its RNA into you that blends in with your own DNA and makes your own DNA work against your body. And I don't know if they're making a statement by making these things look like retroviruses that maybe use you against yourself once they do whatever they do to you. Like I thought these were cool, and these are clearly the work of Millions Knives, right?
Probably. I didn't know any of this.
Yeah, there was a workshop where one of them just kind of skittered in the background, and at first I thought, why does Vash have this workshop with this thing in it? But there's another guy that looks like Vash out there in the world.
Yeah, that was just Vash's hotel room or room at the saloon or whatever.
That's their other brother. That's the other brother. He's only been in the manga before. It's the other brother you don't know about.
Got Vash the Stampede, Millions Knives, and Pete Wilson. Don't ask me how they came up with that third name, but that's all they got.
Yeah, and Pete's a mad scientist. That's the problem. Yeah, and poor Knives is getting blamed for this the whole time, but it's actually Pete.
2 episodes in,
Yep.
Still no Millie. Just a lot of vanilla, but no Millie. So should we just count down the episodes without Millie until they give in and bring Millie into the show? I think every week I'm going to do it. We want a Millie.
Yeah, we need to start a petition.
Yeah, I'm halfway there, halfway. So far, even without her, they've been doing good work, and I think I can make it. I'll be kind of sad, but I can make it if she doesn't show up.
And last week I totally missed it, but then you said something to me when we were reviewing it about how you thought Rosa was going to be Millie, and
Yeah.
that's all I could see this week. Every time Rosa, who's a cool, strong character in her own right, like don't want to take anything away from Rosa, but I kept thinking, oh, Millie, nope, Rosa.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe her last name is Thompson. Maybe the new baby is Millie. Then that'd be kind of weird.
That would be very weird. That would be very weird.
I just like honestly, I am kind of missing it because I loved in the original anime just the fact that they just kept running into like these two women are traveling around, they're doing the insurance adjusting, which is like just destruction everywhere, and they just keep randomly running into them and get involved in the fights, and then Millie's pulling out like bazookas and stuff or whatever. I can't even remember the weapon she used, but like she's like in the middle of the fight, and you're like, you're an insurance adjuster. What is happening? Like, what is going on here? Like just that idea that like, so I kind of feel like that would be, like in the fight, like, I feel like in the fight, like it would be good to have Millie there just for the comedy of like, out comes this ridiculous oversized weapon. And she's just from, just mild mannered insurance executive to like firefighter, like in the middle of a firefight, like I kind of miss that. I'd like to see that. So I hope Millie comes sooner than later.
So it's an agreement. Words of wisdom. We all want Millie. And with that, I'm going to say I'm proud of you for watching anime. And
you didn't ask me when I cried.
Oh, wait. When did you cry? When did you cry, Matthew?
I cried when Vash was just before they pulled Govsef up. When Vash was talking about how he still wanted to save them, even though they treated him terribly. Because that's my gunslinger Jesus, baby.
And with that, I'm still proud of you for watching anime for real this time. We'll talk to you guys again next week with Trigun Stampede, Episode 3.
I just want to say a big thank you to everyone who supports the channel on Patreon. It really means a lot to me. If you might be interested in Patreon perks like early access to videos, uncut reaction videos, ad-free videos, and the opportunity to vote on which anime will be covered in the future, then click on the link in the video description. Thank you.